Hello, I'm Denise,
And I'm Ali.
and together we are DNA. Today we're going to talk about a wee bit more deeply, I think, and what are our USPs? How do you work? Tell me a bit more about who you are as a worker, as a human, um, and see what happens.
Just to explain, in case you're like, what is USP? It's not how you connect to your computer. It's unique selling point.
Your unique selling point or points. Why would you come and see us? Why would you go to Ali? Why would you go to see me? These are reasonable questions.
Yeah. Not also, just because of our sparkling personalities.
And I think in fairness, it's been really difficult to explain because for a long time it just looked like a mad researcher who kept coming up with a different thing and kept going in a different direction. And we've talked about quite a lot of that in other podcasts, which I'm not supposed to do. Refer back. But I think it's been quite. It's a question I get asked a lot. Are you still doing that? Are you still doing this? Yes. And each of the things I'm still doing, informed by the rest of it. So what this holistic approach, this psych soul approach that we've put together, psych being soul in Greek, which I didn't know when I was writing it originally in the singer's psyche, and it's so apt for right now.
Yeah.
But that holistic approach, putting it together, are you one of them? Are you one of them? What do you do? How do you do it? Yes. Yes, I am one of them, whatever it is within the framework that we've developed.
Yeah.
So it comes to a point where you think, oh gosh, there's another thing and there's another thing. And now I think it's solidified, and I think we've grown into the rolling out of what it is that we do. However, it's the same question get asked is, what is the psyche approach? What is it that you do? What do you do and how do you do it?
So many things.
So many things in so many ways, as it would be appropriate for a multidisciplinary, multi-sensory system. Actually, you can go in and look at one thing, or you can go and look at another thing, or you can go in one way and then go, actually, you would really work well for you to do something, cross into a different kind of framework. So I think for me, the bottom line is, it's about voice. It's about singing, music, voice and communication. And everything else came from that. That question in 2002 was, how do we keep singers alive? Now, before that, I would think one of my USPs would be vocal rehab. What happens if my voice disappears? What happens if it's psychogenic, which means it's not got a medical organic body root? Why is my voice disappearing anyway? Why am I coughing? Have I got hoarseness? Am I mute? Why do I not feel? So it might just be that I'm a little bit mute. It's selective, but actually that is a thing, selective mutism. But actually, I mean also that it's harder for us to express some places than other places. Maybe we feel introverted in certain situations. What's that about? So anything that blocked somebody's vocal communication and authenticity in the world was my bag way before I did any holistic approach. Yes, I taught voice, singing, yes, and yes. However, my first USP, I would think, would have been that vocal rehab. What happens, especially if you're a professional performer and your voice is not there for you, it's very scary. You don't know what's going to come out your mouth. It's not doing what you thought it was going to do, etc., etc. Now, there can be technical aspects to that. You can look at that in a technical framework, but actually it's also about looking at the psychology of the shocks, the traumas, the difficulties, the environment, all of these things holistically that we've brought in later years. It would have been part of the original holistic looking at voice and how to communicate that to the medical model team. and your other voice teachers and your singing teachers. And it's a huge thing now. There's loads of real specialists within the medical model and framework, speech and language therapists. Everybody knows a lot more than they did. And when people get stuck completely with all of that, they would come to me.
Yeah.
Or I would work with the medical team, bringing in either the rehabilitation before, not the rehabilitation before, the preparation before an operation, something like that, and then the rehabilitation afterwards. So anything that got blocked at the throat would have been my bag. And as I say, that includes coughing, breathing difficulties, and not being able to speak. Just your voice is fine, but you cannot get the words to come out, all of that kind of thing as well. I found that, and I continue to find that, extremely fascinating. So the doctor, the voice detective, I think. Yeah, the voice detective. Where did it go? What is it doing? And how can I support people to find ways to reconnect with their voices? Because when you've got a voice, that's a powerful thing. And when it disappears, it's very traumatic, very traumatic. So that's my first USP. And actually, when I lost my voice, because of course all this always comes from my own dramas and traumas, that's when I started to write poems. Really full on, because I couldn't speak, and I was damned if I was not going to be able to express myself. So from every cloud has a silver lining. People, there's a nugget of something that can be born out of such traumatic events. And I'm not here to easel that into being something that happens. Is easel the right word? Leverage that, oh yes, go for the dramas, the traumas, then you'll get a nugget. No, the world is traumatic enough, thank you very much indeed. However, when in these crisis situations, some good can come out of it. I've supported a lot of people because I understood from my own experience. So, as usual, guinea pig number one.
We tend to learn the things that we need to in those moments.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it's called survival mode.
Yeah.
And we can figure stuff out there and in that framework.
Also, when you're like on the cutting edge of people's understanding, I think there has been an understanding of vocal rehab on a physical level for a long time.
Yes.
And it's very difficult for the medical model in a lot of places where you have the symptoms and they can't tell you what, they can't see anything, your voice looks healthy. That's a place where that can feel pretty, like you don't want something to actually be wrong with your voice. But if you're like, okay, you've told me it looks healthy and it still isn't working, that's such a scary and disempowering place.
Absolutely.
And
it's not all. There is a growing understanding and a growing understanding. So if you're not one of these people, and if you're one of these people who does understand it, yes, sure, drop us a message. It's fine. However, it's not everybody. We're never talking about everybody. There was something else that was quite interesting that came up from what you said, but it's gone now. So I'll come back to it when I remember, which is probably about as soon as you start to say something, I'll just be like, no, another thing. The voice detective, when everybody else doesn't know what to do, or there's an extra need for support. And therefore that's why we went and got the skills about how to be psychologically supportive. And having an operation, if you prep beforehand, if you prep after, if you prep beforehand, then the rehab afterwards is a lot easier. That's quite difficult for people to engage with when they know that they're in trouble. And that's okay. Either way, that's okay. There's ways of figuring stuff out. There's always somebody who knows. It's not always me, it's not always Ali, but there is always somebody who knows something that can help you. It's getting the right person, and that would go across your entire physical health, I would suggest.
Yeah, I would I would concur.
Yes. And it's a wonderful thing to feel that you've got free singing, free voice. And I think it can, that's what I was going to say, it can tip the other way. Where if you're doing a lot of shows, you're using your voice a lot, especially teachers, especially within the theatre industry, that actually it can become the musical theatre especially, they know a lot now about how to look after their health. If something goes wrong, it can feel really shaming and really damning because you should know better. Along with teachers who day in day out speak in big rooms in stressful situations, and that could be you in your lecturing situations, that could be in any walk of life, and could be online too. You know, what's it like when you're doing this kind of stuff? What happens to your body system? And that do you feel sick? Do you feel happy and gleeful? What's going on? And actually, the market or the vocal usage has exponentially, beyond my wildest imaginings, grown in front of my eyes. And there's usually something that we can do to help move that performance to another level, because one of the things that people are hearing is your voice. They really can feel that in their systems, and they can feel when you're not authentic. They can feel when you're stressed. So to make that communication as ease-filled as possible, making words up again.
I like that, easeful.
Ease-filled as possible will help you with your communication with others. USP with number 1. Anything you've got to say about that?
I would just say, like, being seen and heard can be such a complicated baseline psychological theory that is a living theory, because it's part of our structure, how we are in the world. So we're in the last wee while, there's a big upturn of being seen, quite a lot of like stuff online. Maybe you it's not that it wasn't happening before, but you're actually being faced with yourself like we are right now, staring at our faces on the screen.
Hello.
That can be really confronting. And the voice being that, you talked about it in something, being the last place where everything that's inside of you can be held before it's released out into the world. And that last place is the tiniest, tiny little bit right in here. The amount of, depending on the size, ferocity, emotional content of what it is that's down here, and whether it feels easy to let it out or not, the amount of physical holding that needs to take place
to stuff it down
can be really enough for dysfunction to happen.
Absolutely.
So people sometimes get a little confused when we talk about performance and optimizing performance. When we say optimizing vocal performance, we're talking about anybody who is using their voice. It's not like elite performers. It's not if you're performing in front of an audience. It's literally, we are speaking to one another just now. This is a form of performance.
Little p.
Yeah.
Little p.
So
such an important pickup. So thank you for it.
You're welcome.
I think the word performance can be really confusing. There's always a psyched way. There's always a holistic way that we can tweak things to make things more easy in our day-to-day running of our lives, that don't impacting what's happening with our autonomic nervous systems, what's happening with our communication, that people miss the little p. They think performance is putting the mask on and and it's not that. That's one kind of performance, an elite or a professional singing gig. However, we are all doing many tiny performances every single day, vocal performances with our nearest and dearest or hated or whatever it is. We're all this relationship that the relationships we are in are impacted by our ability to authentically communicate. And the dances around that we do in order, Eric Byrne, it was the games people play. The games we play are so not to say what it is that we want to say can be quite exhausting and can also be very effective. They can work. The games people play, we play the game and then there's a payoff and we all know what's happening.
Because they don't work.
No, exactly that. We're kind of more direct than that. So, vocal rehab, big P, little p, and communication, huge part of what it is that I think we both do. Actually.
Yeah.
However, the vocal rehab does tend to be me.
Yeah.
The voice detective.
The voice detective. Doctor voice detective.
Where did it go?
I would say one of my USPs is psych bodywork. So looking at the body with a psychological, theoretical base. So what is the body telling us or not telling us? Are there parts of the body that are blocked, where the energy isn't flowing fully? Baseline looking, when we're talking about singing, quite often we're already talking about breath, so lungs, diaphragm, the parts of the body that are in the sort of breathing structure. But looking beyond that, what other parts of the body, because our voice is stored, held, contained, vibrates in the body. So it seems remiss to miss any bits out when we're talking about it. And this would be my detective work, that I like to find the little bits of the body that are like being quiet or like out of sync with the rest. So sometimes it can be like a tiny thing, one hand or a heel or something like that is so far away from the part that creates the sound that you would not always directly go there. And how can we utilize all the structures of our body to support the voice and support our expression? So as a singer, I love this work for me because the fluidity and flow when I'm singing is there because I've worked really hard at it. So it feels natural now, but in times where maybe I'm a little more tired or the pressure is higher for something, it's a scarier gig, there's more nerves, whatever, when something is turns up the pressure, I can focus myself and ground myself and center myself using techniques, and that's how I like to work with people. So I don't tend to split them separately now. So any sort of, I see body work as being part of vocal technique.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And again, these things then stand alone as well. So because we come from the singing angle, it's one of our ways in. Voice work and body work, it's another two of our ways in. Paradoxically, from what I've just said about being the voice detective, you are kind of the non-verbal detective. So what you're looking at is the markers within a system that aren't spoken. Now, it's not that I don't do that.
Yeah.
however, it's one of the ways that you really anchor your work, yourself into your work, and one of your USPs, in my opinion, too. I would go along with that. Somatic work, working with the body, the non-verbal, and in that the developmental blocks as well, going from baby and upwards. What are we holding in our physical systems, like what we're holding in our voice, but what we're holding in our physical systems, that if we can open that up can make us feel more alive and enlivened. And that I would definitely see as one of your USPs.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about blocks and things that create tension or holding patterns in our system, it's really important to pay attention to the bits that maybe don't have language, because these are the things that we can hold on to the longest in our lifespan, because how do you make sense of something when there wasn't language and actual cognitive sense made of it at the time?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love to work from baby right through, because everything that is non-verbal that a baby's system has going on, we were all babies at one point. And hopefully, if we're lucky enough, we've had some gorgeous somatic work done, some rebalancing done through some sort of bodywork. But in reality, a lot of us go through a lot of our life having a sense of something with no narrative for it. So
yes, it's out of consciousness, and therefore things began to escalate because we don't know what things are. They're out of consciousness, and then when we bring them into consciousness, there we are. That's that then. But you can't know what you can't know.
No,
right? You just can't know what you can't know.
And just to be clear, we don't particularly go for creating a narrative. It's not about then having a narrative, making a cognitive experience of it. It's about having a body experience, making sense on a felt level.
Yeah.
No, we don't go for interpreting
No.
or making stories. That's not what we're here for.
No. I think one of my USPs would be that I asked the questions. I went on my quest in 2002, and the basic question was, why are singers dying? Like, they're at the top of their game, they're at the top of their fame. My sadness is it's still going on. My research was 2011. We're way past that now, and yet we're not. There's a lot that we already know that would be well. It would be well for the rest of the world to know it. That was a passion for me. I was a singer. My odds weren't great. It was from a total self-survival point of view. And setting up a system that gives singers autonomy, etc., etc. All the stuff we did was ended up being a separate system for artists, and it kind of feels like claiming back your artistry. Other people will have their artistry well in check within the systems that there are. For some highly sensitive souls, it's not working, and for me, that became a total passion, bordering on obsession, to find out how and what I could do, why, and asking these kind of difficult questions in 2002. And yet we're still asking them today. So we have quite a lot of answers on that now, and it was a very serious question, and it was a very deliberate question, one I had quite a lot of vested interest in. Since all the work that we did in the research, we then put ourselves into being creative artists, writing, creating, going through that process with all the information that we then had and all the knowledge that we then had to then go, okay, can we psych doing it on a different level, on the level of writing the songs, recording the songs, blah, 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 as we go. And both the albums are a journey through that, and gave us a lot more questions and lots of solutions, so that we could actually go, yes, it is possible to do what we're doing, and it's huge joy for me that actually it works. It's not just theories; it actually in practice does work. So any creative of any description, and also human, we are humans. Creatives are humans, and other humans that don't do creative work for a living still can be creative people. But highly sensitive people who are creative, who are in the public eye, need not go through it alone. And we are creating platform, we are creating system, and have done, to make it a safe enough process to survive, and not just survive, to thrive, and reclaim our creativity and artistry and be ready to put it out into the world. That brings in performance anxiety, that brings in toxic manipulative systems, or it doesn't bring in toxic manipulative systems. That's kind of one of the points. It leaves that at the door. So what then? So what do we do now? And we felt our way through all of that. And indirectly during the album, I sang my way through menopause. So there's a kind of newer USP that I wasn't really expecting, but that's what happened. So what does that mean? And such a serious question, because I personally know too many dead people. And we have some answers. So I would really like to get that out into the world. Life's tough enough. But boy, do we need our creatives right now. Wow, do we need our expression and our artists to be artists, and not just stuck in idealised transference, but actually leading with their voices through changing times.
Yeah, there's something about getting beyond the sort of pedestal,
yes,
and getting towards a way to celebrate people as people, not as objects, not as a commodity.
All of which does not sit well with a highly sensitive person.
No.
And can feel like the only way forward. And many casualties of that.
Yeah. And what we're talking about and suggesting goes against the system that's set up, where people are commodities in these industries. They make money for a lot of people. So going against the grain is kind of a USP as well, I think. I'm not sure if it's like
that would be the
top selling point.
No, but
it's
that
certainly a core.
Definitely. Thing. Oh God, I love that, Ali. It's probably our our top unique selling point is just swimming upstream, man.
Really hard
Swimming
to
upstream.
sell it though.
It isn't like everything. That's why part of why we're doing this is to let people know what we're doing, because it is vast, on purpose, because creatives and all of us are vast, huge, fantastic, amazing legends, and it's yeah. One day else we'll swim the other direction, or the same direction as everybody else, and we'll just be like, woohoo. But I do feel that happening more now. She says, itching her nose, but not sure I'm on board with that. I do think that is happening more now.
It is.
Definitely is happening more now. I embrace it. I'm ready for it. If that's you, come on in. Yeah.
Come on, we'll get our dinghy out. Paddle up the street.
Paddle up the street.
Yeah. I'd say another USP for me would be around embodied singing, which kind of carries on from a bit of what I was saying before. Embodied singing for well-being as well as for performance. So how can we... What can our voice do for our system? What can our system do for our voice? What does it feel like to embody our sound? What does it feel like for other people? Can be quite fun as well. So embodied voice work is pretty much what I call any voice work that I do.
It is. Bringing in the holistic frame gives an authentic, resonant, in ourselves, soulful sound.
Yep.
Which is you in a nutshell, and I also had that down for you, so I'm glad that you brought it in. We're not really into master classes and masters of, so I've called you the embodied, authentic, soulful singing goddess.
Oh,
how does
lovely.
that feel? Go for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just have to, because there's words that don't fit. So, but
kind
that
of want a scepter.
Do
to
you?
Go with that. My head's too big for a crown.
And you practice what you preach, and I certainly can feel your singing, and I'm not the only one who can feel your soul, your essence when you sing, yours, and that is a beautiful thing. Thank you. You're welcome. And is something teachable. Everything we're talking about is teachable. It's teachable because we learnt it. We didn't just pop up going, oh yes, this is us. We worked it.
It's magic.
It's total magic.
Sometimes it's a little unicorn energy.
Yeah, there's a lot of magic in voice and in music for sure, and in the kind of bodywork, especially that you do. It feels magical. Breathwork too can feel totally magical, and yet it's all teachable.
Because there's theories behind it.
Because there's theories behind it. There's other people before us. We always say it, but we stand on a lot of good research and thinking. We stand on our ancestors. It sounds wrong, but how can I say that differently? We learned, we build on a lot of what the ancestors of all of these different fragments, parts of psychological voice. There's a plethora of them. There's loads of them, and I'm always thankful and grateful that they did their bit. This is us now doing our bit too. And embodied singing.
And someone else after us will do something, hopefully with what we've done, and keep progressing it forward. That's
it's the point, isn't it? That is the point. We are all a link in the chain, and when you realise you're not the end of the chain, this is both frustrating for some and also, and is also glorious. It's like planting trees, but in.
For the people 100 years in the future.
Yeah, which is what we'll do in our little group.
Yes.
Somebody did it for us. It's exactly the same concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
I also think another one of your USPs is authentic harmony, I've called it. Because there's something in the way that you put a choir sound together or the backing vocals for the music that we've done together that is very Ali. You'd know it if you heard it, and is very manages to bring the essence of you out in harmonies, and also the essence of the people who are making them if it's not you. Having done a lot of backing vocals, you've got a lot of skills around all of that on a professional level. And there's our dog having a wee his backing vocals. So yes, you're very skilled in doing that in a professional basis for yourself, and having psyched it, having sold it, SOUL, not SOLD, having sold it, we can hear your essence and everybody in the group's essence too coming together. I know you love harmonies and sound baths and all of that kind of thing for you. However, there's something very precious in your authentic harmonizing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take that.
I'll just... Also, one of your USPs is you are the no bullshit queen. You have a really strong level of compassion and non-judgment, and everybody's okay by you. And there's also a real red flags that go up when things don't feel aligned or authentic. It's no judgment, that's not for you, that's not for us. And you have a real eye for catching these things very quickly. There's many funny stories, but this isn't our funny story reel.
We need to come to a gig or something. We can probably tell the stories
That's
between I'm not sure we want them to be memorialised.
Face to face chats. Ask me some no bullshit.
Around the fire pit, not on the internet. Some things are not for recording.
Fair enough. I think words I would use for you are gentle, deep thinking, and really pay attention to safety, which is, of course, any psych practitioner is going to pay attention to safety. There's a gentleness and a deep connection that you bring into the work. I feel like we're now just, we've gone into report cards for ourselves. Here's one for you, and here's one for me.
I think you are deep and robust, and dynamic in a way that you go towards and towards and towards. If that makes sense to people, it's just not a shying away from anything that could potentially be a little uncomfortable or difficult, but actually going every time I step towards is not for conflict, it's not to push you away, it's to come closer to. I think that's a real powerful part of how you are as a human, but also how you work.
Thank you. I would probably be the person running towards the fire, you know? That is in my system.
I would be the one who was doing the risk assessment to make sure there wasn't a fire.
This is actually also, both is true. And I think I see defences as what they are. They're there to keep the person safe. And I did a lot of psychotherapy work, and I think I always did this, to be honest. I think it's part of me. I think it goes back way past that, but it became one of my USPs within psychotherapy work, for sure. If we're feeling heavily defenses are there for a reason, aren't they glorious? They've kept us alive. Look, we're here. fucking amazing, excellent, legends, and there can be a lot of pain behind that. There can be a lot of sadness and grief behind that. There can be a lot of not having the skills, the coping mechanisms to do anything else other than the survival mode response, reactions, and helping people to get into thaw out a little bit in a safe enough setting for me is a glorious thing. And
excuse me.
And it's potent and it's dynamic, and the tools that we have are also supportive and helpful in that.
I haven't got the squeaky chair or a squeaky bum. I don't know.
When you just suddenly hear what you're hearing, you're like, oh, I'm just like, no, I have to stop. That's hilarious. So
yeah,
yes, I think. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think as the others, we don't have any right to demand that someone throw their defences away.
No.
And as much as we can, as adult professionals in our role, be robust around someone's defences. Like, don't take it personally.
It's not personal.
It's not personal.
If it's personal, it feels personal, and it is personal, and it's not. There's no personal situations. However, that's not how I work, but it's also not how I live.
No.
Compassion to the front and robustness, as you say, to stick with somebody through their agonising difficulty in coming out from behind these really difficult strategies that have had to be built up in order to keep people feeling safe enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean I'm coming for you and I'm bludgeoning through. It's not like that at all.
No.
Don't be afraid.
No, it always makes us laugh because people think Denise is like much more and that I'm really sweet. And
True.
I think it's
so
really very much the other way around.
It's so true. In our human lives, in our the person behind the performance lives, you're much more strident than me, I would suggest. And the no bullshit queen, which maybe this is where it comes in. And in our private life, I tend to be, or I have been, more sweet, or whatever you said, whatever that was, laid back. And as workers, we're the complete opposite way around, because we do a lot of group work together, and it's come up so many times. And people think I'm like that all day, every day, and robust and dynamic, and I'm not. Not always.
We're all a bit of everything.
We're all a bit of everything.
I think one of our joint USPs is that we like being with each other. Yeah. So working together is like a super pleasure when we get to do it.
Yeah.
And that with all the joint theory and learning that we have, we also have these little specialist bits.
Yes.
Where we learn from each other
Yeah.
each time we work together.
Yes, true.
And that we model, like, this is going to sound a bit sappy, like a way to be with each other. That there's respect and deep understanding. And there's no competitive edge in our. It's not like, well, you spoke for 20 minutes, so I'm going to speak for 20 minutes.
We've been in these workshops.
And that we balance each other. It's really, for me, it's like my favourite time is when I'm working with you. I don't know if that's a USP, it's just something that I find really precious.
Oh, I think that's lovely, and I think we both feel it, and we both learn from each other and our separate humans. So what we bring in is, as you say, is a different style. It's a different way of doing things that we can feed into and work with each other along. And in that, we model relational healing.
And we model authentic communication and compassion and respect,
Yes.
which I think are some nice core values to model into the world.
Well, it's like you got
We
to...
don't do it on purpose.
No,
it's just
no.
how we are with each other.
And it's important to walk your talk.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in us sitting here going, oh, you could be this and we could be that for you. But if we hadn't figured stuff out and couldn't hold a boundary and space with compassion and non-judgment and love for each other, that would feel a little, that's why we developed the person behind the performance model, because otherwise you've got one thing going on in one place and you're split. What actually is going on at home is not as resourced as being on stage. It makes it really important to be on stage. So yes, for all these reasons, I agree, and I love that about us. I can't wait to do more of it. And the way that we work together, we've done it for years now, and it's quite a fine-tuned machine, and yet it is always evolving.
Yeah,
Which is lovely. Yeah,
keeps it fresh.
it does. I'm not just checking. Oh, my text.
She is,
I'm not.
Thank you so much for listening to our USPs, or some of them.
Yes.
Hopefully,
It was interesting, Ali.
yeah, it's
It
nice
was
to
interesting
hear.
process, and it was lovely to have that feedback from somebody I trust the judgment of, and to give you some positive feedback too. I feel we've both had a report card today.
I'm going to treat myself for being so clever. So thanks for listening.
Yes.
Hopefully you'll have some clarity or maybe some questions. You can get in touch with us.
You can indeed.
You can find us on Facebook, Noble House Scott. You can please subscribe to YouTube, Noble House Scott. You can check out our website, noblehouse.scott. And if you don't want to do any of those things, you can come back and see us again next week.
Yes, indeed. And I'm Denise.
And I'm Ali.
Together we are
DNA.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.
Bye.